I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Happy Friday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Welcome and shout out to everyone who is watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. And I want to give a quick shout out to people in the chat. Let's go ahead and do that. Shout out to Bad Cookies. The very fact that having a Republican can lose an election and somehow be a candidate for the Democratic ticket says how fed up, effed up our whole situation has gotten. That's a good point. I agree. I hear you. I totally hear where you're coming from. Shout out to Miguel, says peace. Greetings, Dabby Dabs. It says hello to Bad Cookies. I agree 100%. Also, I think too many people have seen her parrot her war criminal father to vote for Liz. Ouch. You guys are throwing all the blows tonight. You're coming at me. You're throwing all of them. Marxist-Leninist Chavista says the only way Liz Cheney can defeat those men only if she runs as a Democrat. Shit libs love her and Bush now. LOL buffoons. Aye. Oh dear. Shout out to Lawrence Johnson, who's a Sabby member. Some people actually voted for the spawn of Satan. Wow. It's true. Not many, but it's true. What's going on? A non-user says DNC and GOP are just two wings of the U.S. fascist party. I hear you. The Quantum Alchemist, Dabby Dabs, that's usually how it goes. What's going on, gamer, says hello, namaste all. Shout out to Joe OWS, says hello, family. Greetings. Gore, son of none, says OI. I don't know what that means, but welcome. What's going on? Donald says, as a right-wing libertarian who goes to you and Jimmy Dore for progressive perspective, I can tell you that the only Republicans who would ever vote for Cheney are members of the Lincoln Project. Yikes. Oh boy, those poll numbers are interesting. I took a peek at it before I went live. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, definitely take that poll. It's pinned to the live chat. Shout out to Aberdeen71. Corn Pop cut Ryan Grimm's hair with his straight blade. Oh dear. I don't know what that's about. What's going on there? Shout out to Delthea, who's a Sabby member, says, what's up? Greetings, Monique in London, says Aaron Love. There's a shout out there for Aaron. What's going on? Ashira says, can you cheat on that poll? I'm pretty sure the people for Cheney were more than 15%. Oh, so it's going down then. It was higher. It was higher when I checked it earlier. Shout out to Rain Strom. Up in the air, up in the air. Greetings, Oz sends a smiley face with cool sunglasses. What's going on? Shout out to Cool Blue, says hello, everyone. Greetings, Anthony, says you too to somebody. Could be me. I don't know. Greetings, Monique in London, says happy Friday, Sabby. What's going on, Nick? Hi, Sabby, Gamut, and Sabby family. Rock on. Shout out to Where Pilgrim, says, hey, everybody. Hey, Where? Oh, the screen moved. Shout out to Jenna Colby says, can Fetterman and Dr. Oz both lose, please? We're going to talk about that tonight because I have some things to say about this race. It's really interesting. What's going on? Latif, who's a Sabby member, says, good evening, everyone. Peace. Shout out to Dolores says, hello, everyone. What's going on? Desert Mantis says, sorry, I'm late. You're right on time. You're right on time. What's going on? Eric Gray says, what up, everybody? And being a teacher in Florida is a very interesting experience, to say the least. Shout out to Muhammad. Do you trust the forward party after Kim's explanation? So far, it's still not for me. Again, like I said, I would like to have that conversation with Andrew Yang, but so far it's not for me. You got to have some policies for one. Like they got to do something with that. Shout out to Notori, who sends a dance emoji and rock on. What's going on? Jonathan says, hey, Sabby. Hello, Jonathan. All right. And I think my guest is here. Let me go ahead and add him to the stream. Okay.
Hi, Sabby.
Hello. Welcome. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, listen, I saw you drinking beer in one of those videos, so. And we also have a live in studio audience, the guy who brought me the beer, so.
Oh, no worries. All right, guys, my special guest tonight is Tim Russo. He is the author of the Star Wars series for leftists called Ghost of Plum Run. And I want to go ahead and make sure I put the link to that in the chat as well. Tim, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me on. It's a pleasure. Do you like love stories?
No.
Really?
It's okay.
Do you like time travel stories?
I do.
Okay, this book is for you.
I'll have to check it out. I do like time travel.
Especially volume 3, which is not out yet, but volumes 1 and 2 are available on Amazon. Thanks for the pitch.
Cool beans. All right, Tim. So you reached out to me. I'm assuming you might have seen either a clip from me or RBN about our frustration with Nina Turner recently. But you reached out to me because you actually had predictions about her campaign and about her joining with Bernie Sanders before all of us had reservations. And so do you want to tell everyone a little bit about that?
Well, specifically, I bet Jordan Chariton that she would lose by 30, and she did, which is how I ended up on Jordan Chariton's show. Are you guys friends?
We know of each other. I wouldn't say we're friends, so to speak, but we know of each other.
Anyway, yeah. So I bet Jordan Chariton that she would lose by 30 points, and he said I was crazy. And I'm the guy from Cleveland, and he's the guy coming into town telling me I'm crazy about the race that I'm talking about.
Why did you have that feeling?
It's a long story, and I hope we can get. Are you ready to get into the weeds? Because we're going to get into the weeds, Sabby.
Well, let me share this really quick from you first, because I do want people to see this part. I highlighted this. Now, this is from your blog, and you said here, because I thought this was interesting. You said Bernie Sanders was suckered into a bunch of performative, I'd Paul, woke dim, #Russiagate cosplay bullshit, which destroyed his campaign from the inside out. Something I've been warning Bernie World Inc. about since October fucking 2015. I wasn't alone. It all fell on deaf ears, largely because Nina Turner sucked up all the oxygen out of Ohio. A phenom, Nagel and Tracy document that Nina replicated with exactitude in South Carolina. Incredibly, Bernie handed the absolutely crucial South Carolina campaign over to Nina. Anyone from Ohio could have told Bernie or doting wife Jane, who ran that shit show top to bottom, that making South Carolina the Nina show was a really bad idea. In fact, we did tell Bernie. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Well, I'm glad we're drinking. Where's your beer?
I don't have beer tonight. I have tea.
Well, we we got beer over here for this one. The live studio audience loved your dramatic reading of my poetry. Yeah. Nina Turner's number one consequential act politically in her entire life was her endorsement of Issue 6 in 2009, the Cuyahoga County Reform Charter. And the chief effect of that, these many years later, is that there are no African Americans elected countywide in Cuyahoga County anymore, and statewide. You can't win statewide if you're an African American if you don't blow out Cuyahoga County, and that's the chief legacy of Nina Turner's political activity, such that she was praised for it for years, as a maverick, basically a John McCain kind of thing, you know. And what it boils down to is a lot of weeds. There's a lot of weeds in Cuyahoga County. I mean, you must know this. Were you involved at the grassroots level at all in your Democratic Party, Sabby?
Well, I like in reference to Bernie Sanders' campaign, yes, but in reference to Nina Turner, no. I mainly spoke to people that live in her district. So I have a call-in show too, and people have called in and they've talked about.
But I mean, where you live, are you? You know, there's a divide in every town, every little locality between the black side of town and the white side of town, especially in these great migration cities in the Midwest, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Detroit, all of that shit. That dynamic in the Democratic Party in the Cuyahoga County manifested in Nina's career. Nina is right at the center of this. She rose up in a county party led by 4 white guys. Frank Russo, Jimmy DeMora on the east side with the African Americans and the Jewish voters on the east side. And then the Irish, Italian, working class white side, Parma, West Park, was led by Bill Mason, a guy by the name of Bill Mason and Pat O'Malley. And the way this is told on the streets and in the rumor mills is that somehow Bill Mason sold Jimmy and Frank into federal prison. And that's what was called the county corruption scandal in 2008, where Jimmy DeMora and Frank Russo had their offices raided by the FBI, much as is happening today to Donald Trump. And they end up in federal prison, but somehow Bill Mason and Pat O'Malley don't. Somehow Bill Mason and Pat O'Malley don't manage to have anything bad happen to them out of this county corruption scandal. But the media and the Greater Cleveland Partnership, which is the largest American Chamber of Commerce in the country, local Chamber of Commerce in America, came up with this idea to seize this opportunity of this corruption scandal and completely wipe the slate of the county charter, get rid of all of these elected officials, and replace them with one county executive, a county council elected by district, and there was one countywide elected official left, and that was the prosecutor, who happened to be Bill Mason at the time. In fact, Bill Mason wrote the entire charter, admitted it in the media. You can find plenty of reporting that Bill Mason wrote the county charter. So this all goes ballistic. Frank and Jimmy spend years at trial, and then now Jimmy's in prison. Frank died. He was released early because of COVID. He got out after spending, 10 years in federal prison. He went to Bracknell, and God bless him, he got to die at his home. And Frank and I guess we're related. I used to run ads that said I wasn't related when I ran for office countywide. But I think we are. But anyway, bottom line being, Bill Mason wrote that county charter, and it was clearly written by the white West Siders. Everybody knew this was a Bill Mason operation, this county charter. So none of the countywide elected black officials or the local elected officials, all the way up and down the ballot, endorsed this Issue 6, which was put on the ballot in 2009 called Issue 6 to replace the county charter with this new one written by Bill Mason, writing the office of prosecutor that he currently sits in himself into the entire charter, has no African American support whatsoever. That's when Nina Turner showed up. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? So Nina Turner shows up, and she is paraded before the television cameras as the hero of county reform. They put her on the front page of the Sunday Cleveland Plain Dealer. I remember this vividly. There's Nina blasting out in front of me on the front page of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, when the rising star. And the chief effect of that, among many others, not least being the county jail literally belches out dead people by the week or by the month. This county government got way more corrupt, way worse under this charter. But at the same time, today, Bill Mason is the #1 most powerful guy in Cuyahoga County government. And Nina Turner has nothing to say, has never said a thing about any of that. And this is the most consequential political act of her life. So when I hear her talking about people like you, oh, you're backing up the right wing and blah, 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 and all, and Jimmy Dore's a racist and all of this, you know, all you got to do is dig around and figure out who Nina Turner is. And Cleveland figured that out. Now, during this last primary, she had a shot. She had a shot. Why? Because all of those people who she helped put in place were behind her. She split the Democratic Party much the same way as it historically had been split under Jimmy and Frank, and then Bill Mason and Pat O'Malley. That primary was very interesting to me on that front, but she had a shot that she blew it. She completely blew it. And then she was up by 35 points, had $3.5 million. You don't lose, okay? If you're up by 35 points, there's no reason for you to lose at all. She lost. So then she comes back, and Jordan Chariton rolls into town. I love how I'm running into these young Turk alumnuses, you know? I mean, I guess they're everywhere. I guess all these young Turk dudes run around telling people where they live, hey, you don't know shit about your hometown. And I told them, I said, listen, she's going to lose by 30 points because she's done. She had her shot. What the Democratic Party does for incumbents is unite. We all know that. You know, Frank Jackson endorsed her twice. The studio audience just piped in. She's establishment to her core. Now, I love Nina. I think she's wonderful. It's such a, I sensed in your voice the last time you talked about her that you were very sad about all this. And, you know, I get sad about it too, because, you know, you hear a voice like that and you want it to be on your side, you know? She ain't. Turns out now she's working for Cenk Uygur. How much are they paying her?
I don't know. I will say, why do you think I got to ask this question about the big money, because one of the things that has been coming through is that people are saying that AIPAC came in and they poured in all this big money last minute. And that's why, or part of the reason why she lost that campaign. But I have talked to people that live in her district, and I've heard different opinions about this. One person told me that the ground game was good. Another person called in and told me her ground game was not good.
Yeah, there was no ground game here. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, the first time you're talking about when she had a 35-point lead and blew it, that one? Okay, that one, when you lose a 35-point lead, you've done everything wrong, okay? Everything. Top to bottom. Nothing you did was right. If you lose a 35-point lead. If you lose a 30 and you're sitting on $3.5 million, you don't get to excuse me that the other guy had just as much money. No. That don't work. That does not work. You know who bought that? No, you know who sold that is Cenk Uygur. I mean, that's why she's working for him now. She went to his. I covered her quote town hall in Collinwood. It was like going to a police convention. I mean, they had that thing locked down. They were fucking checking people, everybody up and down. You know who showed up? Were the same 25 people who have showed up to shit my entire life. I saw Trevor Elkins there. mayor of Newburgh Heights at the time. You know where Trevor Elkins is now? Trevor Elkins is in jail because he embezzled $145,000 from his campaign account for personal expenses, and he pled guilty himself. You know how much time the judge gave him? 30 days. He steals $145,000. This guy was a Chief Bernie guy, by the way, locally. Trevor Elkins, Cuyahoga County. Sorry, these things get very weedy, Sabby. They do. They which is why I'm glad John or my studio audience brought me a beer.
Well, why do you think some people did not come out and support her, let's say the second time around?
Well, if you can get away with a lot, if you're a big fraud, you can sell a bunch of people certain ball of goods and for a while. But if you ain't any good, what saved Nina Turner in that first race was that the district had been drawn down into Summit County, outside of Cuyahoga County, where all that shit that she put in her own bed is still stinking up to high heaven. So it gets down to Summit County. Nobody knows who Nina Turner is except through the Bernie thing, which of course was, again, she stabbed somebody in the back. Do you know the Cleveland African American newspaper, historical black newspaper, the Call Post?
No.
You not heard of the Call Post? I'm not going to tell you the cartoon they ran of Nina Turner because that might get your show canceled. But they ran a cartoon of her that year, which is on my website because I can publish what I want on my website, at least for now. Who knows? But Cuyahoga County's bad blood followed her to the border. It didn't go across. So down in Summit County, the councilwoman there, Tara Mosley Samples, delivered Akron for her and the surrounding precincts. And if it weren't for that, that would not have been a very close race. But at the same time, the margin of victory is literally almost exactly the same as the amount she lost the early vote by, which nobody talks about. There's tape of Chink on the air on the live stream that night going, oh, well, he sees the early vote come him, and all of a sudden he's a seer. He looks at those early vote numbers. Well, yeah, that means you ain't got an early vote program. That means you ain't got nothing. And I asked around. I said, did she do anything to chase these ballots? Half the vote comes in before election day. When are people going to learn this? The campaign is not the same anymore. It used to be straight to the election day. Well, now half the vote is in by the time you get to the polling place. So if you haven't reached those people already, and that's what Nina failed to do the first time, and I don't think she even tried to do it the second time because she lost by 30 points. I think she got tired. She got tired of her own act. How about that? Call me on that, Chink. I dare you. Make my day.
So why do you say that she was not good for the Bernie campaign?
Because she was, for her, this is her repeating that black window dressing thing that Bill Mason did with her to change the county charter so that a prosecutor is the only one left who's elected countywide other than the executive. She sold them all down the river, and now she's a media figure. So she's climbing that ladder. That's why she's picking fights with Jimmy Dore and whoever else. Yeah, I mean, yeah. She's picking fights with Jimmy Dore. She said something about Jesse Jackson. She's not Jesse Jackson. The peanut gallery has spoken. Anyway.
Well, you said something specifically about South Carolina, though.
Right.
About
she gets to South Carolina and she shits the bed. She shits the bed in the place where we got to show some serious. We can't win the state, but we can't lose it by what? 45? What was it? 45 points? Tell you what, you give me that kind of money, I don't lose by 45 points. She's consistently wasting dollars on campaigns that explode to themselves 30 points down, 40 points down. I mean, at some point you got to just look at that's not her. She's not a movement builder. Everyone kind of figured that out about Nina early on. But nobody talks about this decision she made, and she never gets called on. Nobody asks her, hey, how about Bill Mason? Are you doing Thanksgiving at Bill Mason's house with the cops union? She's on the board now of this Cleveland Police Foundation. Like, what the hell? How much more do people have to see?
Yeah, I did see that part.
And now, and when she took the shot at Donald Trump about the FBI, you know, people talk a lot about this left-right convergence, this realignment where suddenly it's the MAGA heads who are wanting to defund the FBI, if not eliminate the FBI, abolish the FBI even. Didn't we hear that somewhere once before, Sabby? I think we did. So when that stuff starts coming together, right, that's where you got to look. And I see that with Jimmy. I see that with Joe Rogan. When they sent Joe Rogan down the river because AOC had a tantrum about it or whatever, like, listen, lady, this was the biggest interview he did the entire 2020 campaign, was the Joe Rogan interview. It's the only one we're still talking about. No one's talking about any other interview. We're talking about the Joe Rogan interview. And you took the campaign and you literally sliced it right in half. At the moment it was beginning to grow spectacularly. That's the Ed Paul. It's a cancer. It gets in there. Everybody's got a reason to hate everybody else who's different from them. You're not going to cure racism by showing me your pronouns. I'm sorry.
Do you feel that Nina Turner brought that to the campaign?
Well, I'd like to ask her. You know what's funny? I gave her an opportunity to answer all of these questions that I have about this issue because I asked her for an interview after the Bernie campaign in 2016. I was trying to do podcasting just like you. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to interview Nina because I still bought this bullshit she's selling. So I'm going to interview Nina and I'm going to set it up and I'm going to get a sponsor. I got a sponsor at a bar where I sing karaoke called the Eastland Inn. They were going to have us do the interview there. They were going to serve us food. We were going to drink beer, everything. I had a guy with lights. I had lighting. I set the whole thing up. 3 days before it happens, she pulls out through some woman who probably still works for her. And I had told her, I said, listen, I want to talk to you about this transition we're both making because we're both the same age. Me and Nina Turner are the same age. Around. We both came up the same ladders. I fell off it. She kept going up. I happen to know where the steps go. So this ideological journey we're taking, I'd like to talk to you about that in the context of issue 6 because you gave everybody Bill Mason. She knows I feel this way. You got to do something about that, okay? This ain't not, you can't run around being Miss Revolutionary if this is what you're going to do. So when she starts blowing up the FBI like she's watching Blue Bloods every fucking night, you know, we're supposed to be surprised.
Well, why did people, and I'm curious about this. I did speak to one resident there who told me that they felt that Chantel Brown was actually there in the community, and they said that they felt that Nina Turner wasn't. Do you feel that's true?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, I think Chantel Brown knows how to work those streets. I think Chantel Brown, there is a remnant of the Lou Stokes operation on the east side. The Frank and Jimmy thing didn't really reach too deep into those ward clubs and you ever hear of Fannie Lewis, the famous city councilwoman, Fannie Lewis Huff from Huff, the famous Huff riots?
No.
Fannie Lewis, I can't do this show without mentioning the name Linnie Powell. Linnie Powell was Congressman Stokes's right-hand woman politically on the ground in that district. And she taught me everything I know about that side of town's politics. And I think Nina is just a media figure. She got sucked into like a moth to the flame. That happens to the best of us. And she's not doing constituent. She was not known for constituent service when she was elected as a state senator. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And I think Chantel definitely makes a point. She was a county councilwoman, right? So that requires some constituent service, and you have to be connected to the locality. You can't be running off to Cenk Uyghur's New Year's Eve party.
Oh man.
I'm so tired of her story. Like when she took on, you know what else she's doing? She's standing with Ukraine. I don't know what your audience is about Ukraine, but I do not stand with Ukraine. I am totally with Jimmy Dore. Every time I see some guy in a t-shirt on television who's walking around, I look for a swastika because Jimmy Dore has that clip where he's doing this. He's looking in there. What's that on? What's that tattoo on his arm underneath the t-shirt? You know, sorry. Oh, it's a swastika. It's a swastika. Look at that. It's another one. What a shock. What a shock. We're so shocked. Sorry, I don't stand. But she would vote, Nina Turner, even if she won, she would vote for the $2 billion private police force, which I would like to refer to as a Gestapo of the Capitol Hill, just like AOC, just like all the rest of them. And then she would go and then she would send hundreds of millions of dollars into a laundry machine we call Ukraine. You think any of that money is getting to anybody who needs it? Have you ever been to the former Soviet Union and looked around? You could sell any of that shit. I mean, I don't think 20%. Max Blumenthal just did a great article at the Gray Zone, which I highly encourage everybody to read, about just where this shit is going. The money is not reaching where you think it's reaching.
Right.
I mean, this is the biggest scam in the history of the post-Soviet period. Is this money raining down on them? And Nina would vote for that 100%. And she sold the BDS movement down the river,
right?
Utterly, like explicitly.
What about this theory? And I've heard her mention this as well, that the district that she's in, that they tried to smear her and say that she was anti-Semitic. So I guess in order to win in her district, you have to be pro-Israel. Is that true? And from what you've seen?
Well, in that tiny electorate, right? That turnout was what, 17% in the primary with Chantal, the first one, the first one where she lost by 35 points spectacularly. I'm talking about turnout. What was the turnout in the first one? I'm asking the live in studio audience. 17% was the turnout among that tiny group of people. Yeah, I think that works. Now, you tell me if we can double that number sometime with people who don't think like that. That's a low number. These low turnout primaries. Yeah. I mean, that's the extent to which the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party can still motivate people to come out for an endorsed candidate. 70%. You know what that means? That means they ain't got shit. They can't do anything. That's why we keep losing Ohio. My expertise has always been the statewide. Clinton, Gore, all of it. Joel Hyatt, Sherrod Brown, all of it. I covered this shit. I don't know. Do you remember my old blog, Blogger Interrupted, BuckeyePolitics.net? I covered a lot of this stuff, and I covered it from both inside and out. And I keep coming back to that's why there are no elected black statewide anything, Republican or Ken Blackwell was the last one.
in Ohio.
Do you remember Ken Blackwell? Oh my God, Ken Blackwell.
Well,
and it's funny, and this is another reason why the African American community is starting to flood toward Donald Trump. I don't know if you've noticed that in Boston, where you live, or in your family, or in your.
Well, Boston's a whole different. It's not even. Boston is a whole different ball game. Very different. I'll tell you that much.
Who should you have on? Are you a fan of the Red Sox or something?
Yeah, but they won't. I mean, look, my team. I'm not even going to get into my team because they've taken so many people away year after year after year. So after Big Papi left, like that was really hard. That was probably the hardest year. But still, they get these great players in.
What's your opinion of Manny Ramirez?
Let them go. Manny Ramirez?
Yeah.
I mean, he was good. Like, my favorite was Big Papi, though. He's like,
Well,
David
but we
Ortiz-
had Manny Ramirez. We didn't have no Big Papi. Big Papi broke our hearts. Okay, see, you see this? You see this right? Where is it? There.
I know.
Look.
I know.
By the way,
it's okay. It's okay.
So, are you watching the? Are you a Patriot? You had to be a Patriots fan. You had to love Tom Brady.
Yeah. Tom Brady still broke my heart, but we'll be okay.
I think you're fine. I think what is it? 6 championships is fine.
I know. Well, we're spoiled. We are.
You are in sports. You're very spoiled in sports.
Yeah. But I do have one more question for you, and that is Nina Turner did say, well, she was asked if she would consider running for president, and she did say that she may consider it. And she was also asked if she would run as an independent and not as a Democrat. And she said she would consider that as well. And I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Well, Jimmy Dore is running for president too, isn't he?
No, Jimmy's not.
I mean, he keeps dropping it like a hint, like all the time. Do you notice?
Yeah, but I mean, I did talk to him about that. He would prefer that someone else did it.
Are you a Chapo person? Did you ever listen to Chapo? Or were they too guy for you?
I never listened to it.
No. What are we? So you, but Nina running third party for president. I mean, she'll get rich, and that'll be all that happens. I mean, that's literally. I mean, she's proven herself on every level, in these very specific ways. And this Trump FBI thing, I can't believe Nina Turner fell for that bullshit. And then I think about it for 5 seconds, and then I realize, yeah. And on top of it, she can't really run a campaign. I mean, everybody knew that. Like, nobody was. She got her start with Mayor Mike White, who hired her into some kind of community affairs. And what's funny is she got the first seat by appointment, just like. I bet that deal was cut with between Jimmy, Frank, somebody else, Lou. I think who was running? Was Lou Stokes still around at that? No, that's Stephanie. That was Stephanie. Stephanie was involved in that deal. She did not earn her first votes into office. She just was handed the office, is the point. So if she wants to run for president, I think that'll be highly entertaining, don't you?
It would be something.
It would be something. It'd be fun to watch.
Okay. Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on. I do have a hard stop because I have call-in tonight. But
I love you anyway.
Thanks so much for coming on. All righty.
Thanks, Sabby.
Talk to you later. Bye. All right, guys, let's go ahead. That was interesting, huh? I want to go ahead and shout out some of these chats here. Shout out patrons and go to the thumbnail and we'll get into our other stories tonight. Shout out to Justin B for the super chat. Thank you so much. Tina Olson is running as a Green for governor in Pennsylvania. Screw Dr. Oz and Fetterman. Better vote for an awesome Green that isn't owned. Thank you for that information, Justin. I should reach out to her. Miguel says, it's Friday, Sabby. You should have a beer. I don't think I have any. I really don't. I don't think I saw anything in the fridge. The Quantum Alchemist. Sabs has a very beautiful voice. Too many heightened sense of hearing says. To my heightened sense of hearing says. Thank you very much, Quantum. Red State Annie. Love you, Sabby. Thank you. Love you too. Shout out to Justin B for this super chat as well. After watching Dennis Kucinich get screwed over by the Democratic Party in 2018 and getting killed in the primary, I knew Nina didn't stand a chance. Nina should have known better and run green. That's a good example, Justin. Thank you so much for that. That would be a good person to talk to, too. I would like to talk to Dennis Kucinich as well. Thank you for the super chat, Eliezer. If Trump comes back, people will wake up again and blaze it down. Oh, dear. People will wake up. All right. Oh, my gosh. All right. Let me go ahead and give a quick shout out to people who are Sabby patrons. You guys, Eric is not hanging out with me tonight. He's off tonight, so I'm by myself. So bear with me. Just bear with me. All righty. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support. I have 5 categories if you're interested in becoming one: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and the ultimate. All of their names are listed here. Thank you guys so much for your support. And I also want to give a special shout out to a new Sabby patron. Let's give it up for the newbie, Joe Peck. Welcome. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate all of your support. It really does help me out a lot. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Let's go ahead and get into the thumbnail here. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Okay, tonight we're talking about John Fetterman and Dr. Oz fear. You know, I got to tell you, I'm with Justin B on this one. I really don't care for either one of them. Just being honest. I mean, obviously, John Fetterman is a better option than Dr. Oz, but John Fetterman is not a great option either. We'll get into that. I'm also going to discuss Liz Cheney 2024. Can you believe it? Yes, they're actually trying to push this. They're actually trying to make this a thing. That is also the discussion for the call-in segment after the show tonight, and I'll give you those poll results as well. We just discussed the Nina issue with Tim Russo, and we're also going to discuss Brian Stelter is canceled. So we definitely want to go ahead and get into these stories tonight, and I'm going to get started off with the John Fetterman and Dr. Oz story. Now, for those who may not be aware, John Fetterman actually had to deal with, he had a health scare. I believe it was a stroke. Don't quote me on this. I thought it was a stroke. But anyway, he was hospitalized and he was told that he needed to take care of his health. So if you're told you need to take care of your health, that means your campaign may have to take a little bit of a breather. You may not be able to be out on the ground all the time as much as you were before. This happens. So he decided to do that, to take care of his health. Now, Dr. Oz, and I can't believe I used to watch this guy's show. I really cannot believe I used to watch Dr. Oz. I realize he's such an ass. Anyway, Dr. Oz is now making a big deal about the fact that he feels like he's basically running alone and that his opponent isn't really doing anything. So I want to give a shout out to Case Study QB for this clip. He goes on to say John Fetterman is not debating. Oz complains about John Fetterman not debating. I'm dancing with myself. Woe is me, Dr. Oz. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Let's get into it.
If he pulls this off, what basically Joe Biden did, but on steroids, by never leaving the house except maybe once a month or even less to say something, then we're going to see a whole new era where candidates never go out. Because, you know, when you go out and you get tired, working 18-hour days like I do, you know, mistakes happen. People ask awkward questions, but folks challenge you. And then they start to make media out of that. My opponent's not out there. I'm dancing by myself. And it's a lot better to have both candidates out doing what they're supposed to do in a democracy. Be seen, be heard, and articulate why you believe what you believe. He has to defend his radical ideology. As you pointed it out, it's way to the left of everyone. Bernie Sanders and he have endorsed each other, and they call each other the two most populist candidates in the country. He's like AOC on steroids. He'd be the center of that team if the squad got together. If he pulls this off, what basically Joe Biden did, but on steroids, by never leaving the house except maybe once a month or even less to say something, then
I just want to pause it there for a second. So I just told you before I played this clip that he was hospitalized. So you see how Dr. Oz is trying to, he's really exaggerating this here. He's trying to make it seem like it's more extreme than it was. Like, it's not like John Fetterman just said, look, I'm just not going to participate and I'm just going to let people just come out and vote and I'm not going to go out on the ground anymore. He was hospitalized. Let him go on. He exaggerates more here.
We're going to see a whole new era where candidates never go out because, when you go out and you get tired working 18 hours days like I do, mistakes happen. People ask awkward questions, but folks challenge you. And then they start to make media out of that. My opponent's not out there. I'm dancing by myself. And it's a lot better to have both candidates out doing what they're supposed to do in a democracy. Be seen, be heard, and articulate why you believe what you believe. He has to defend his radical ideology. As you pointed it out, it's way to the left of everyone. Bernie Sanders.
Let's talk about that for a second. He says that John Fetterman has to defend his radical left ideology. First of all, it's not radical left. If you think about it, it's not radical left. John Fetterman said so himself in multiple interviews that he does not even consider himself to be a progressive. I've seen multiple interviews with him and he said he's a Democrat, which explains why he got an endorsement from Hillary Clinton. I talked about this about a month or two ago when that first happened. But you see how Dr. Oz is going to make it seem like he's this far left radical person. Now, he goes on to talk about Bernie Sanders here in just a second. And there's something I want to mention about that as well. I'm going to show you why Dr. Oz is a fraud.
Left of everyone, Bernie Sanders and he have endorsed each other, and they call each other the two most populist candidates in the country. He's like AOC on steroids. He'd be the center of that team if the squad got together.
Okay. You know what's interesting? Dr. Oz actually had Bernie Sanders on his show to talk about Medicare for All. He was on Dr. Oz's show. I don't know if everyone remembers this. This was before Dr. Oz decided to run for office. And in that segment, Dr. Oz actually agreed with Bernie Sanders. Like, I wish I could play it for you guys. I wish I could play it, but I can't because of copyright. But I really wish. I'm going to see if I can find it online, and maybe I'll post it on like the YouTube community tab so you guys can watch that episode yourself, because I'm like, now he's saying that he's all this radical, they're radical and far left and crazy. First of all, what people call left in the United States is not radical at all. It's not. Is it radical that all these other countries in the world have health care for everybody? That's radical? Okay, whatever. But this is what they do. So when I put in the title, John Fetterman and Dr. Oz fear, it's because I feel like there's a lot of fear mongering surrounding this campaign. Now, for those of you who are watching, if you're in Pennsylvania, I really want to hear your opinion about this. How do you feel about either one of these guys? I don't know. I don't live there, but I want to hear what you think about them, because the last time I checked, it looked as though John Fetterman actually has a better chance of winning this race. I think that Dr. Oz, for me, he just comes across as a fraud. Like I said, I told you, he agreed with Bernie Sanders about Medicare for All when he had him on his show. So he's doing what is going to work, or what he thinks is going to work for him as a GOP candidate, which is, let me smear the person running through the Democratic Party that I'm running against as this far left radical. That's what he's going to do, but he's not alone. And I say that because there's another one. So here we go here. Sean Hannity is also doing the same thing. Now, this is, again, shout out to Case Study QB for this clip. Hannity talks about John Fetterman's extreme left positions. And again, I'm going to show you something tonight about John Fetterman that I've shown it on here before, but if you're new, you may not have seen this. That's going to show you that he is not extreme at all. Anti-fracking, Green New Deal, ending the filibuster, packing the Supreme Court, legalize drugs. That is not radical. That is not far left. But listen to this segment here from Sean Hannity. You got to hear this. I can't make this up.
We are learning so much more about Fetterman's really extreme far-left positions on crime, anti-fracking, on new Green Deal socialism, ending the legislative filibuster, packing the court, legalizing drug dens, legalizing heroin, and everything in between. Here's a small sample.
I don't support fracking. I think it's something that has to eventually go away. And I would like to see it, I was on a panel with Secretary Wetzel earlier before the pandemic hit, and he said something remarkable that I agree with. He said, we could reduce our prison population by a third and not make anyone less safe in Pennsylvania. And that's a profound statement. Reimagine how we are dispatched to these scenes in terms of what's the best tool to bring. I think public safety.
Just like, wait a second, what are you talking about? Like, you want to legalize heroin, and why are you talking, why do you care about these things? And
we are learning so much more about Fetterman's really extreme far-left positions on crime, anti-fracking, on new Green Deal socialism, ending the legislative filibuster, packing the court, legalizing drug dens, legalizing heroin, and everything in between. Here's a small sample.
Extreme, he said. Extreme.
I don't support fracking. I think it's something that has to eventually go away. And I would like to see it, I was on a panel with Secretary Wetzel earlier before the pandemic hit, and he said something remarkable that I agree with. He said, we could reduce our prison population by a third and not make anyone less safe in Pennsylvania.
That's radical? Really? How is that radical? Yes, you can reduce prison populations. And part of the reason one of the ways that you could do that is if you free everybody who's there for marijuana. People who are there for like 20 years under Joe Biden's crime bills for like marijuana. Free those people. Yes, you can. Not everyone who is in prison is blah, 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 blah. Not everyone who is in prison for a violent crime. And even the ones who are in prison for a violent crime, they need to be rehabilitated in prison, which the prison system in the United States does not do. This is why you have people like Chris Hedges actually going to the prisons and teaching them. He's doing what the prison system should actually be doing, but they don't in this country. Now, in some other countries, they do. If you look at the prison system in Norway, they actually rehabilitate the prisoners. There's a whole documentary on this, by the way, where you go to like the prison systems in some of the parts of Europe where like the prisoners actually have their own apartment. They have a key. They can come and go as they please. They are actually rehabilitated there, and they give them that trust again. That is not what we have in the United States. And this is part of the reason why a lot of times when people are released from prison, they are more likely to become repeat offenders because they were never rehabilitated to begin with. Then it's really difficult for them to get a job as well when you have a criminal record. So there is no rehabilitation. We need to take that part out of it. So I don't see what's radical about this.
And that's a profound statement. Reimagine how we are dispatched to these scenes in terms of what's the best tool to bring. I think public safety.
Just like, wait a second, what are you talking about? Like, you want to legalize heroin, and why are you talking, why do you care about these things? And
we are learning so much.
Now, I don't have a problem with any of that. Any of it. In fact, and some people may not agree with me on this. In fact, some of my friends, some of my family members don't agree with me on this, but this is just how I feel about it. I think that all drugs should be legal. All. Ta-da! It is really not right for me or the government to tell people what they can put in their own body. I really do not care. I'm sorry. I feel like all of them should be. And I believe it is Oregon that decriminalized. Is it Oregon? Yes, I believe it's Oregon. It was about a year or two ago that decriminalized drugs. I'm sorry, but if you look at some other countries that have done this, like Portugal, for example, their crime rate decreased when they legalized all drugs. So no, I don't think they want to do that here in the United States because that actually helps the criminal justice system. That would hurt the police force because then the police departments wouldn't really have as many arrests to make. They wouldn't be out there arresting people for marijuana. This is why they don't want to decriminalize marijuana federally. This is why Joe Biden won't do it. Because then that would look bad for the police force, because that's where they get a lot of people from, busting them for marijuana, busting them from other drugs. I don't care. I don't care. Whatever you want, that's your body, not mine. And for the people who will come back and say, and I know some people are going to come back and say this, but what about the children? What about the children? Responsible people will keep that out of their way. Come on, let's be real. For people who smoke marijuana, do you hand over marijuana to kids? No, you don't. That doesn't make any sense. I hate that logic. Now, that being said, the fear mongering that they're trying to use to turn people away from John Fetterman and towards Dr. Oz, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's far left radical. And even if he was, so what? Who cares? But I still say I don't think either one of them is a good option. And I have a couple of things I've said before about John Fetterman. There's one is the story where he chased down a black jogger. And I noticed like some people are talking about John Fetterman on their shows. And I've noticed that they are not mentioning that. And they know who they are. They're not telling their audience that John Fetterman chased down a black jogger with a gun. Someone who was jogging while black. Some of them are also not mentioning this. And I think this is important as well. Now, this was something that was also concerning to me. This was in reference to supporting Israel and Palestine. And those of you who have been following me for a long time, you know where I stand on this issue. So John Fetterman says he will lean in on U.S.-Israel relationship as senator. So again, what do we tell you at RBN? We stand with Palestine because the Palestinians are basically being treated the same way that black people were once treated in the United States. And people can call me whatever they want. But this brainwashing that's happening in the Democratic Party, Republican Party, by the way, they agree on this issue. Democrats and Republicans, they agree on this issue. This idea that you have to back Israel. Nah, F that. As an African American, I stand with Palestine. It is what it is. Now, he goes on to say, John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania and the Democratic frontrunner in next month's high-profile Senate primary, said he was eager to affirm his unwavering commitment, to bolstering ties between the United States and Israel in an interview with Jewish Insider on Thursday, emphasizing that he will lean in on such efforts if he is elected to the upper chamber in November. Boom. So you know where he already stands on that issue. Now he goes on to say, whenever I'm in a situation to be called on to take up the cause of strengthening and enhancing the security of Israel or deepening our relationship with the United States and Israel, I'm going to lean in. The relationship is a special one that needs to be safeguarded, protected, supported, and nurtured through legislation and all available diplomatic efforts in the region. So for me, if I was in Pennsylvania, I wouldn't be voting for him either. We have to pay attention to these things. Pay attention to this. Anyone who's out there promoting John Fetterman and they're not telling you those two things I just told you, that's suspect. You deserve the right to know. Just keeping it real. I'm going to go to some of the comments here. Shout out to Mecha DD Afi. Thank you so much for becoming a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Thank you and welcome. Marxist says, Sabby, are you a revolutionary socialist or a Marxist? Technically, by definition, I would be considered a Marxist. So most of us over at RBN, that's what we will fall under. Nick says he's not anti-fracking at all. So I've heard people say this too. Now, I know he said that in that interview, but I've heard people tell me this as well, that he's not anti-fracking. So I don't know what's up. He's being a typical politician right now. He's not telling us the whole story. Thank you for the super chat. Cool Blue. Republicans currently have this Pennsylvania U.S. Senate seat. Latest polls, Oz is trailing Fetterman. In a midterm favoring Republicans, Oz should be holding it. Oz may blow this, allow D's to keep the U.S. Senate. Yeah, I don't know why Dr. Oz wanted to run in the first place. I'm like, really, dude, really? Come on. Shout out to Anthony Malecki for becoming a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Welcome. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. I effing chuckle when people like Hannity assert non-socialist proposals as bad because they call it socialist, assuming people will see it as bad. The right literally dumbs down their own when said. Interesting. Thank you so much for that. And I'll have to do Rockfin comments last because it's just me tonight. It's just me. All right. So I give a shout out again back to Justin B, who told you guys to vote for the Green Party person that's running as well. I'm sorry, but you see what I was saying about this two-party system? Both options are bad. I'm sorry. Now, some people are going to hear that, by the way, and they're going to tell you, oh, Sabby's actually right wing. No, that's a smear that they're using for people who are actually further to the left of them. Keep that in mind when you hear people say that. Anyone who's further to the left than the progressives, they're smearing us and calling us right wing. Nah, bud. Okay, let's get to this next story here about Brian Stelter. So this was really interesting. There's Brian. You know, I've told you before that CNN, MSNBC, mainstream media, mainly these cable news media shows, they have actually not been performing well in the polls. Their ratings have been going down. I mean, ratings, not polls. Their ratings have been decreasing ever since Joe Biden won last year. And part of that has to do with the fact that what was giving them high ratings was all the talk about Trump, because Trump was just so ridiculous sometimes that people actually wanted to see, what did he say this time? Oh my God, he's so outrageous. What did he do this time? And then when Joe Biden won, I know some people personally that pulled away from politics completely after Donald Trump, and they don't want to hear about politics at all. Just being honest. So that's part of it. But the other part of it was Trump was giving them views. Biden doesn't really give people views like that. He just doesn't. So the ratings have decreased. We saw that they had launched CNN Plus. They thought that was going to be this great streaming site that they were going to have. That tanked. And now Mr. Brian Stelter is going to be departing from CNN as well. Let's get into this. Brian Stelter to depart CNN as it cancels reliable sources media show. So there's Brian. CNN is canceling its Sunday media affairs show, Reliable Sources, and host Brian Stelter is departing from the network. So this is going to be interesting. I've also already heard that he's been invited to go to I read that he was invited to go to Fox. So this should be interesting. In a statement to NPR, Stelter says he's grateful for the show and his team's examination of the media truth and the stories that shape our world. The truth. That part's funny. It was a rare privilege to lead a weekly show focused on the press at a time when it was never been more consequential. Stelter said, promising to say more on Sunday's show, its final episode. Stelter got his start blogging about cable news as a student and went on to become a media reporter for the New York Times. Reliable Sources is the longest running show on CNN. Stelter has hosted it for the past 9 years and celebrated the show's 30th anniversary. So what does that tell you guys? That's the longest show on CNN, and even that tanked. I'm telling you. Mainstream media is the pits. Independent media is where it's at, bud. CNN chief Chris Licht informed Stelter of the decision yesterday. Licht has been making cuts throughout the network since taking the helm as part of Warner Brothers' Discovery takeover of the old-time Warner Company. The network pulled the plug on its standalone digital platform, CNN Plus, for which had hired former NPR host Audie Cornish and former Fox News host Chris Wallace before it had been launched. Both stars have stayed on at CNN. Stelter, who often touted the show's ratings on Twitter, was among those CNN hosts targeted for frequent criticism from conservatives for his coverage of the media during the Trump years. Among those publicly joining in on the broader criticism of CNN as having become politicized was the investor John Malone, a major financial stakeholder of the new Warner Discovery conglomerate. During an episode in Friday, Stelter cited Malone more than a dozen times in coverage of the Discovery deal for CNN and its sister properties, expressing some concern about the investor's influence. Oh, well, what do you know? You don't say. Imagine that the investor's money can actually have some kind of influence and power over your show. Stelter came from CNN to CNN from the New York Times as the nation's top media reporter. He departs CNN an impeccable broadcaster. We are proud of what Brian and his team accomplished over the years, and we're confident their impact and influence will long outlive the show. Nah, we'll forget. I don't remember who the CNN hosts were last year. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't remember these people. For the most part, I don't remember them. Sorry, but it's real. Okay. Where was I here? Stelter often chronicled the rhetorical wars over politics, its reporting, and even facts. They're killing me with words like truth and facts. Ramping up the intensity of his periodic commentaries during former President Donald Trump's tenure. It earned him recurring criticism from pro-Trump figures and taunting from Fox stars Greg Gutfeld and Tucker Carlson. Stelter also covered CNN shortcomings, but was seen as a loyal team player under former CNN chief Jeff Zucker. As Stelter later conceded, he was slow to recognize the depth of the ethical problems posed by former CNN star Chris Cuomo in advising his brother, then governor of New York, on how to handle accusations of sexual harassment. A corporate spokesperson confirmed the show's demise and said the network, which Stelter well in his future endeavors, the show began under veteran Washington correspondent Bernard Kolb and continued under the longtime media reporter Howard Kurtz. Kurtz now hosts a show with a similar format on Fox News called Media Buzz, which will become, at least for now, the only major national television show analyzing news, business, and journalism. So, CNN says it will continue the popular Reliable Sources newsletter. So, ladies and gentlemen, like, it's all falling apart. You guys see? This is what they fear. Mainstream media, they fear this, right? They see their numbers have been decreasing. They see these shows are getting canceled because they're not keeping the numbers. Because more people are tuning into online media, especially like younger people, you know? So I know, Richard. Sabby has pronounced his name 3 different ways so far. I know. But this is a problem for mainstream media, right? In fact, Roger Meadows had mentioned this one time to me. He was picking up someone as an Uber driver. And he said, I think they were from Fox and Friends. And he told them that their days were numbered with their job. Like, not like something was going to happen to them physically per se. I have to say that. But he told them that, like, you know, more people are tuning into independent media. And they told Roger Meadows, yeah, I know. We realized that we don't have that much time. So they know. They know. JB Font says a reliable source tells us that CNN cancels reliable sources. I don't know what to say, man. I don't know. Jay says CNN has been a joke for a long time. Hopefully the underread Smirkonish is next. Yeah, I know. I'm not a fan of that guy either. Brian's annoying to me, and Smirkonish is annoying to me too. Sorry. Let's go ahead and get into our next story because I'm excited to see what that poll says, ladies and gentlemen. Okie doke. Let's go ahead and break something down really quick. Let me get past this part because I'm not talking about Sarah Palin tonight. I am not talking about her. Okay. Liz Cheney. So as I predicted, she lost her primary. I didn't imagine she would lose it as much as the way that she did. I believe she lost by like 40 points. So she was demolished. Her opponent was heavily endorsed by Donald Trump. So that shows you where things are going, the direction people are moving in, right? You know, she criticized Donald Trump, one of the few that did. That was a part of the Republican Party in DC. And so, yeah, she lost. But now she's thinking about running for president. And get this. The Democratic Party actually wants her to run. I'm not making this up, you guys. That's that bipartisanship for you, right? The Democratic Party actually wants Liz Cheney to run. Let's get into this. Oh, I can't wait to break this down.
Victory for Trump-endorsed Harriet Hageman, and we should note, not so long ago, she was a political ally of Liz Cheney's. Obviously not the case now.
Well, Brianna, definitely that is one of the many evolutions here that we have learned in this Wyoming race. Harriet Hageman actually introduced Liz Cheney when she was first running for Congress back in 2016 as my friend and as a proven conservative. Of course, Liz Cheney won that race the same night that Donald Trump won in 2016. So much has changed inside the Republican Party since then. And we really learned how much with that margin of defeat from Liz Cheney. They knew that they were on the way to losing the primary, but the margin was certainly something that surprised many Cheney supporters. But they do, of course, already turning the page. We're learning this morning exactly what Liz Cheney's next steps are going to be for now. Overnight, her campaign filed papers with the Federal Election Committee to create a leadership PAC that allows her simply to raise and spend money traveling across the country to do what she wants to do to take on the former president. She's calling the leadership PAC the Great Task. But she said on the Today Show this morning, just a short time ago, about her plans for 2024.
Are you thinking?
I just want to pause for 1 second and then we'll go on here. But I do just want to jump in and say this part in reference to how bad she lost. Let's remember, it's not like Liz Cheney was a new politician. She's been a politician for years. People in Wyoming really know her. They've known her for a long time. And even they turned on her. They supported the candidate that Donald Trump backed. What does that tell you? That means she lost support from people that she had support from for years. Let's go in.
Thinking about running for president.
Sorry.
This morning, just a short time ago, about her plans for 2024.
Are you thinking about running for president?
That's a decision that I'm going to make in the coming months, Savannah. I'm not going to make any announcements here this morning, but it is something that I'm thinking about, and I'll make a decision in the coming months.
So when she says the coming months, that means after she leaves her congressional seat. So for the next 4 months, she is going to be in Congress, of course, as the vice chair of the January 6th committee. And I'm told by people familiar with her thinking is that she does not want to make an announcement right now as the committee is still doing its work. She, of course, is leading the charge on that. But if she would decide to run, that would come next year. And again, back to the title of the great task. Of course, she is referring to Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address when he talked about the challenges facing the country, the great task. And that was in her speech last evening as well, a speech that was infused with history. But now history for her is that her congressional seat will come to a close at the end of this year, and it really is the end of a legacy for the Cheney family here in Wyoming as well. Her father and mother, Lynn Cheney, were watching her speech last night, just a short distance from the stage, and I was looking at them as they were looking at their daughter, and certainly the end of an era for the Cheneys in a very different Republican Party here.
I'm sorry, but the whole family, they were warmongers. Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, they were warmongers. Sorry. So their dynasty is over. Their political dynasty has ended. Okay, great. Bye. I'm just sorry. No, dude. What are we cheering for? I see Indy's in the chat. Hi, Indy. Everyone check out Indy Left News. If you haven't seen him before, he does Indy News Network on YouTube, and he promotes all of us in his newsletter. Let's go back into this crazy story here
in Wyoming and indeed across the country.
Joining us now to discuss, CNN chief national correspondent and the anchor of Inside Politics, John King.
Morning.
Good morning. It's so great to have you on this day. Can you just put into context this moment in history where you go from Liz Cheney 2 years ago winning by more than she wins with more than 70% of the vote, and here she gets creamed with a spread of more than 30%, even though she has Democrats going to her side.
She stood
up. So she won by over 70% prior election, and this time lost by between 30 and a little bit over 30% this time around. That's awful.
Up to Trump, and Trump got 70% of the vote in conservative Wyoming, and this is the defining fight in the Republican Party right now. She knew it. As she explained last night, she had a choice. Join her leader, Kevin McCarthy, in the House, join the leadership in telling a lie, repeating a lie, supporting a lie that somehow Donald Trump was cheated in 2020, or stand up for it. So I'm more fascinated by the next chapter.
Let's look at this. Look at this, guys. 66.3% voted for Harriet and 28.9% voted for Liz Cheney. Again, she was the incumbent. That is a huge difference, bud. You lost a lot of support from people. And let me be real here. It's not like there's a lot of people in Wyoming. Woof.
Lie, repeating a lie, supporting a lie that somehow Donald Trump was cheated in 2020, or stand up for it. So I'm more fascinated by the next chapter. This was Wyoming is Wyoming. To Jeff's point, yes, hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, independents and Democrats switch parties to stand with Liz Cheney, but there just aren't enough of them. It's not going to happen in Wyoming.
So the what's next is fascinating. And we just had some news a few minutes ago. Liz Cheney in an interview with Savannah Guthrie, said she's not about to make an announcement, but in a way she did. She said, I'm considering, I'm deciding right now whether I'm going to run for president. And that is declaring something.
It is. So the first contest for the Republican.
He sounds a little bit too excited about this to me. He sounds a little bit too excited about this to me.
Nomination is 17 or 18 months away. She would have to make a decision, obviously, months and months before that to organize. So everybody should think about that. Everybody should watch that. That's the big flashing light. I'm much more interested in the next 3-4 months. What she said last night in her speech, I urge all Americans not to vote for election deniers. So now she has this super PAC. She has tens of millions of dollars left over that she raised in the Wyoming race. Can they prove it? This is the test. You will learn about what you can do. Can you move voters? Can you beat Trump? Can you beat election deniers? You'll know a lot more about that terrain in 2024 if you try it and play.
I don't think she can beat Trump. Well, we're going to look at the poll in a second, but I don't think she can beat Trump. I really do think that all this talk, I mean, if this primary election doesn't show you something, okay, again, she was the incumbent. And I really think that to go along with the FBI investigation with Donald Trump right now, all it's doing is actually giving Trump more energy. They're basically making Donald Trump a martyr. And if you think about how that works, if someone is a martyr, they actually end up having more power than they did before. So I don't know what they think is going to work here. But hey, like I told you, it's okay for the Democrats to come and support Liz Cheney and to pump her up, to get her to go out there and run for president. They can do bipartisanship. We can't do bipartisanship. We can't do it, especially when it comes to activism. No. We're only supposed to organize with people who are on the left, not people in the middle, not people in the right. But they can do bipartisanship all day long. Just remember that.
Hard in 2022. So will they raise money? Will they run ads? And then can they and go out in states and campaign? And can you convince enough Republicans in battleground states like Arizona, like Pennsylvania, elsewhere, to not support Republican candidates? Can you convince Republicans this is more important? And so, can you switch the House there? No, I think the dynamics in the House seem pretty clear, although let's watch. But you could make an impact in some very key governor's races and some very key Senate races. And it's a laboratory, if you will.
So you think this is a test run to see how much of a spoiler she can be?
Yeah, she does not waste words. So why did she say that last night? I urge all Americans, meaning Republicans, really, and independents who are up in play in a midterm election year. Normally, it's, there's a Democrat in the White House. Therefore, his party gets punished in the midterm election year. But she was looking straight ahead.
Wait a minute. Listen to this again.
To not support Republican candidates. Can you convince Republicans this is more important? And so, can you switch the House there? No, I think the dynamics in the House seem pretty clear, although let's watch. But you could make an impact in some very key governor's races and some very key Senate races. And it's a laboratory, if you will.
So you think this is a test run to see how much of a spoiler she can be?
Yeah, she does.
Oh, so it's okay for Liz Cheney to be a spoiler per se. But if you're a third party candidate, if you're an independent candidate, you're not supposed to be a spoiler. How dare you not run through the two-party system? How dare you not run as a Democrat? How dare you not run as an independent, as a Republican? How dare you run as something else? What about that? Where's all the people who were blaming people like Jill Stein for Donald Trump winning in 2016? Where are all those people? Are you going to feel the same way about Liz Cheney, or is it going to be okay for her to do it because she's a part of the same system? This is why I want you guys to pay attention to some of the things that they say.
She does not waste words. So why did she say that last night? I urge all Americans, meaning Republicans, really, and independents who are up in play in a midterm election year. Normally, it's, there's a Democrat in the White House. Therefore, his party gets punished in the midterm election year. But she was looking straight ahead and saying, this is a moment. This is a moment of choosing. The Republican moment of choosing about Trump will come in 2024. There's a lot of time between now and then. In our business and in politics, sometimes we're always trying to skip chapters. We're in the middle of a pretty fascinating drama. I think we should go one page at a time.
No. Let me tell you something. When he said there's a lot of time, it reminds me every year, Tim brought up the Red Sox earlier tonight. It reminds me every year at the beginning of the Red Sox season, every year this happens. For whatever reason, we tend not to start out strong. I don't know why. And people will always say, oh, don't worry about it. It's early. And people will say this April, May, June, even in July, people will still say, don't worry about it. It's early. We still got plenty of time for that. Do we though? 2022 is almost over, you guys. Today is August 19th. 2024 will be here before you know it. Do we really have plenty of time? It reminds me when Jamal Bowman was in the interview recently and he said he's not thinking about 2024. Really? And you're a politician?
What would make her say, no, I'm not going to run against Trump if she felt perhaps she was going to actually just play the foil and help him?
So there are serious conversations among Liz Cheney, Larry Hogan, people like that about what does it take? How many, what if a bunch of us ran as anti-Trump candidates? Do we need just one? What's going to happen? The first question is Mike Pence is going to be in New Hampshire this morning at the Politics and Eggs breakfast. What does he say after this? Does it make him more defiant? And do you more stand up to Trump? Or do you say, wow, look what just happened in Wyoming. Trump is the tail that wags the dog. I'm getting back in line and I'm going to mute myself. So if you're watching, does Ron DeSantis, if Trump runs, does Ron DeSantis have the courage to run? How many others have the courage to run? And so then you're looking there as the anti-Trumper. Donald Trump won because you had those 16 candidates at the beginning of the race. You had Rubio, you had Bush, you had Cruz, you had Rand Paul. And Trump won early on because he was getting 30% of the vote. Well, if there's a whole bunch of Trumpy candidates, Trump-like candidates, and Liz Cheney, and one anti-Trumper runs, a strong anti-Trumper, you can get 25%. You can get 30%.
I don't think so. They are actually here right now. This is supposed to be the liberal news network. They are actually here right now trying to figure out how to help Liz Cheney. Do you guys hear this? They have a whole plan, laying out all the cards. They're basically telling, I don't know who might be watching this right now, but if Ron DeSantis or Trump or whoever is planning on running in 2024, if they saw this segment, they're probably like, oh, so that's the plan. They are literally planning, well, if they have this, this, and this, then she can easily get this. I don't think so. I don't think they realize just how powerful someone like Trump has become. I don't think they realize the power. I guess I wouldn't say the power, but how many people still support him. I don't think they realize that. I realize that. Because I've lived, like I said, I lived in South Carolina. My parents retired there. When I go to visit my parents, I see a lot of Trump supporters.
Maybe you can get 30. That's why I think the 22 test. How much can you get? How can you learn how much you can get as you head into 2024? Plus, let's just be honest. We have no idea what Trump will look like in 16 or 17 or 18 months. In part because of all the investigations, in part because you do find Republicans who support what he says, who deny the election, which is just wrong, who just say, though, but can he win again? Can he win again? For all the mocking of Joe Biden, they do. In a dark room, when they're not on camera, Republicans have to realize Joe Biden beat Donald Trump, and he beat him pretty good.
That's the Mike Pence argument. That's the argument from Pence world that they'll whisper to you, which is, Trump lost.
Right. It's just... Look, I'm fascinated by it. This is what I do. So I could say,
Trump lost, but I'm sorry. But as much focus as they're putting on Liz Cheney, shouldn't they be focusing their attention on Joe Biden and the Democrats in office right now that are not doing well? No, they're worrying about what's going on the Republican side. Let's see how we can help Liz Cheney. Why do you want to help Liz Cheney? Every day, they show you over and over again exactly what I've been saying, that at the end of the day, it is one corporate party. They're showing you that. Robert Reich is showing you that. When Robert Reich says he wants Liz Cheney to run for 2024, Robert Reich is showing you it's one corporate party. Isn't that something? Some of these same Democrat politicians in DC, they'll come out and support Liz Cheney, but they wouldn't support Bernie Sanders. What does that tell you? It's a damn shame.
At the map all day long, looking at 2024 states, and which primaries could Liz Cheney do well in? Could she deny Trump this? I think the biggest challenge is just, that's exciting, that's interesting, but it's way too far down the road to have anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen here, ignore them. Because we don't know. We just live in these incredibly volatile times. It's the same people who said, we're not ready for a black president. There's no way Donald Trump can win the Republican nomination. Okay, that was a fluke, but there's no way he can win the presidency. Oh, Joe Biden's done in 2020. There's no way he can win. Just remember all that and just take it one day at a time.
When she said last night she voted.
Well, I could say the same thing about someone running as an independent or running as a third party candidate. Just remember all of that.
Lincoln and the fact that he lost House and Senate races before going on to be president. Did you take that to mean that she was likening herself to Lincoln? Or did you take that, maybe it's both, to mean that she was saying to Republicans, look at the long game. Just because you lose the battle doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your eye on winning the war?
I think both.
I'm sorry, but the Republican Party was a third party back then. I don't know if everyone knows that, but the Republican Party was a third party back then. You did not have as large of a population as you do in the United States today as you did back then. There was far less people. There was less competition. I know this woman is not comparing herself to Abraham Lincoln. That's what's happening now? Is that where we're going? Okay. Aye.
Both. I think she was trying to say some fights are worth fighting, taking the risk, even if you may lose. Lincoln did not in the end. The Union survived, but it was a risk. And the other thing is, like, Republicans, please, this is a proud party with a great legacy and a great history. Can we have it back, please? Yes, we don't live in the age of Abraham Lincoln, but what happened to smaller government? What happened?
It's a proud what? With a great what? What? No. You can see he agrees with it too. He agrees with us. Come on.
Just remember all that and just take it one day at a time.
When she said last night she evoked Lincoln and the fact that he lost House and Senate races before going on to be president, did you take that to mean that she was likening herself to Lincoln? Or did you take that, maybe it's both, to mean that she was saying to Republicans, look at the long game. Just because you lose the battle doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your eye on winning the war?
I think both. I think she was trying to say some fights are worth fighting, taking the risk, even if you may lose. Lincoln did not in the end. The Union survived, but it was a risk. And the other thing is, like, Republicans, please, this is a proud party with a great legacy and a great history. Can we?
What? Let me tell you something, though. I just want to say this. Imagine if Jimmy Dore would have said what he just said. You guys see the problem? It's okay for them to say it, though. Okay.
Have it back, please. Yes, we don't live in the age of Abraham Lincoln, but what happened to smaller government? What happened to market solutions? Where are the market solutions? For example, if Joe Biden signed a huge policy achievement yesterday, you can like it or not like it at home, depending on your politics. It's a huge policy achievement. It does big things in healthcare. For the first time, makes these giant investments in climate. Republicans all voted no. Liz Cheney wants the Republicans to have a plan. Right, here's our.
They're still lying about this this Inflation Reduction Act. They're still lying about it. No, it doesn't do great things with healthcare. It does the bare minimum. And the healthcare portion of the bill doesn't even start till 2026. So let's get out of here. The climate portion of the bill is giving more money to fossil fuel companies. This is an absolute joke. They all have the same talking points. You notice that? The liberal media, CNN, Fox News does this too. They all have the same talking points as the politicians. This is how they spread the propaganda. They say the exact same thing.
Market approach to the healthcare solutions. Here's a market approach to climate. That's what we need in the country. Big policy debates about big challenges, and then let them vote, and we'll see what happens. Then you have elections. We're gone. The Republican Party is not a policy driven party anymore, an ideological party anymore. It's a Trump party, and it's a grievance party. It's a party built on the idea that Joe Biden's not a legitimate president, which is just not factual. You can't. They have stood on that ground, quicksand, longer than many people thought they could, but eventually you sink.
I just don't understand why they care so much. They seem really rather passionate about this. Have you guys noticed the amount of passion they have for this? Now, speaking of Nina Turner, she tweeted this in reference to this issue with Democrats supporting Liz Cheney. Some Democrats would rather see Liz Cheney in the party than progressives. Shameful. Of course they would, because Liz Cheney is corporate, just like them. And now that you have said that, Nina, why would you even want to entertain telling progressives to run through that party? Because this goes back to something I told you guys before. At the end of the day, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party dislike the progressives. Both of them dislike them. Welch is great. Nina, you been knew this song. Come on now. I'm going to go to some of these comments. That's what we're getting into tonight for the call-in segment. And actually, let me go ahead and show the poll, because I do want to see the poll results really quick. Somebody's watching me and I have no privacy. Oh. Okay. Poll. Just gonna clip the results really here. Yikes, this is brutal. Okay. To the window, to the wall. Let me come out of here. I'm gonna share it. Yeah, this number definitely did change. Why are you trying to show both of those, dude? I just want to share this one window. Like, that's it. Okay, there we go. Okay, here are the results from the poll. Why is it so tiny? How do you zoom in? Oh, there we go. No? Oh, there we go. Whee! I don't know why it's like that, but anywho, as you guys can tell, so the poll results were, if Liz Cheney ran for president in 2024, would she beat Trump or DeSantis? 10% said yes, and 90% said no. When I checked this, it was actually 35% that said yes. But this is 493 votes. So this went the way that I thought that it would. But who are the 10% that said yes? I'm curious. I'm curious. Who thought this, man? Who thought this? Okay. So those are those poll results. Let me go ahead and close that. And let me go to some of the chats. Guys, go ahead and like the stream if you haven't had a chance to do so. I think it's over 400 people watching. Hit that like button. That really helps me out with the algorithm. Thank yous. All right, let's get to some of these comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Cool Blue. Brian Stelter, who reminds me of Jason Alexander of Seinfeld. He kind of does. Seems like he should be hosting a game show. Interesting. JB's in the chat says Trump still has power. That's right. Even though he's not in office anymore. Thank you for the super chat, Cool Blue. After Bush, Cheney, Dems will legitimize Satan. Can't put anything past them, right? Thank you for the super chat, Justin B. Ran a similar poll on Twitter related to this topic. Looking forward to the call-in. That's right. That's the call-in question, guys. Cesar Mantis said the Cardinals always turn it on in August and September. Yeah. That is a good point. I know Red Sox, like, if we haven't turned it around by July, forget that, bud. Thanks for the super chat, AJF. Leftist independent progressive campaigner, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Oh, wait, you are a Republican / Democrat candidate. Never mind. Proceed. Exactly. That's what they do. That's what they do. Okay. I'm actually going to end with some pretty good news tonight. I guess this is good news. I don't know. I don't think it's pretty bad. Whatevs. Okay, here we go. The call-in portion, a segment. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put that in the chat, and then I'll pin it as well. I just want to go ahead and do it first now so I don't forget, because that'll be pretty cool. Call-in starts at 10. I'm excited for that. Okay, the kind of good news, or something that's not really bad news. So every year, this report comes out where they decide what is the best state to live in. And this is based on a number of factors. I'm going to get into that in just a second. And this year, it turns out that my state, it's 92 degrees right now. Damn. Sorry. That my state, Massachusetts, is ranked the best state in America to live in. I kid you not. So my husband showed this to me, and I was like, oh, I guess I could show this on the show. I'll tell you the factors that they use to decide this. In compiling its report on 2022's best states to live in, so you can look this up as well, the personal finance website Wallet Hub says it compared the 50 states across 52 key indicators of livability, including housing costs. I know we did not make it for this one. Housing costs, interesting. Income growth, education rate, I can see education, and quality of hospitals. Okay, I agree with education and quality of hospitals. I do not agree with housing costs. I don't know how we would have made the best state when you add that in. So, yeah. Yeah, I know Yipper, but the report comes from Wallet Hub. So they link the report here. Massachusetts was crowned the top state to live in, followed by New Jersey, New York, Idaho, and Virginia. And I know certain parts of Virginia can be very expensive too, and New Jersey. The living conditions in Massachusetts ranked as follows, according to the report: 7th in reference to percent population of poverty. I don't know about that one. 9th, income growth. I guess I could see that. 1st, percentage of insured population. I'm not sure if this is insured in reference to health insurance or other insurance, like car insurance or life insurance or homeowners insurance. I'm not sure. So I wish they would have went a little bit deeper with that. 8th, percentage of adults in fair or poor health. Okay. Why do we even have fair or poor? See, this is the thing. Like, if we had healthcare for everyone, will we have as many people in fair or poor health? Now, it says we rank 8th, and I think that's only because Massachusetts does have mass health. Now, that's not Medicare for all. It's means tested. So you have to fit a certain income bracket to qualify for mass health. And not everyone, in fact, a lot of people don't qualify for it because that income bracket is pretty strict. 5th, average weekly work hours. That's a lie. Who did they poll? Oh, no. Listen, I don't know anyone here who's working under 40, 45 hours a week. Most people I know here are working more than 40 hours a week. I'm talking 50, 60 hours a week. And that includes people working professional jobs and blue collar jobs. So I don't know about that. 9th in restaurants per capita. So I could see that. And 6th percentage of residents 12 plus who are fully jabbed. Wow. They added that in there. Boy, I tell you. New Hampshire checked in at 6th on the list, while Maine ranked 11th, Vermont 12th, Connecticut 25th, and Rhode Island 28th. So now this is interesting. Mississippi was ranked the worst state to live in, but Mississippi is getting rid of homelessness. You see what they use, the factors they use to judge like these states? Mississippi is building homes to get rid of homelessness, and they're ranked the worst state to live in. And I think part of that has to do with their education ranking and healthcare. Anywho, don't believe the hype, guys. The housing is still expensive here. I don't know how that made the list, but it is what it is. Now, I do want to make sure I pin that call-in link to the top of the chat. And I think I do need to check out Rockfin. So let's do that. So bear with me because I'm going to have to share my screen with Rockfin to see if there's comments. And at the same time, I'm going to have to oh dear. I don't even know how to. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right, let me zoom in. Let me scooch over. All right, and I'll share the screen. Rockfin is it's so different because like this is something Eric usually does and he does it on the back end. So it's going to look weird when I do it, but I just want to make sure I give shout outs to people who gave tips on Rockfin as well. And I don't know how to pop out this chat. Oh, I can just do tips. Okay. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger Meadows. I don't know what was in that drink, but give me some of that. I know that was funny. Thank you for this tip as well, Dave Burt. Good luck, Sabby. Thank you. Thank you for this one as well. One more $2 bill for Sabs. Thank you. Thank you for the $5 tip, Gene Zybach. And thank you for this $5 tip, Crone of Anarchy. The Senate seat is a trophy for Dr. Oz, who reminds me of that doctor on The Simpsons. I can see that. Oh my God, it's like a Sabby inception. What the heck is happening here? All right, I'm almost done with the tips. Thank you for this tip as well, Snork Y2K. But now Jeffrey Toobin is free to come in and help give the network a rise. Thank you for this tip as well, Roger Meadows. Yes, that lady worked behind the scenes for Fox and Friends. Sean Hannity, I think it's time for him to retire. Those old talking points of anything with a D next to their name is a socialist is played out, and it sounds very tired. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Fox viewers see it as a boy crying wolf. Notice when AOC won her primary, he put up a screen of goals she wanted to accomplish thinking. And thank you for this tip as well. It would shock their viewers, but backfired when it didn't have the desired effect she was looking for. Sean took that down real quick. That Oz commercial knocking Fetterman was straight out of the 80s and prior. Guy you had on seemed like he had a lot of knowledge about Ohio. He'd be the perfect person to run Ohio ballot initiatives, Medicare for all, public banks job guarantee with wage above local rent, pathway for startup co-ops. Okay, cool. Well, that was a weird view there. That was kind of weird. Okay, cool. I know that it just kept like going back. I don't know why it does that. JB knows how to do that better than me. I only have that issue with Rockfin. I don't know why. All right, I do need to put that link here for everybody. Hey, I'm actually going to start calling on time this time. I'm pretty pumped and excited that I'm doing that. Owner of a lonely heart. Doo-doo. Let me find the link. Balls. Oh, there it is. Okay. Owner of a lonely heart. Studio. Oh. She don't even know my name. Think she loves me just the same. Studio. Okay. It is pinned at the top of the chat. So you guys should see the call-in link there. And I think I got one more super chat from Roger Meadows. Want to make sure I don't miss that. And thank you for the super chat, Roger Meadows. Speaking of massacre, don't forget 1534 Tremont. Yes, thank you for reminding me, Roger. Roger knows I forget a lot of. Every day people kind of throw things at me, like ideas at me, and there's a lot of good ideas. And Roger Meadows will be the first to tell you a lot of times I forget. So if you see him reminding me of things, like, that's why. All right, cool. All right, honey buns, it's Friday. I'm going out of town this weekend. I'm going to Maine, to Portland, Maine. I haven't been there yet this summer, and I usually go every summer. So I'm excited to go and have some yummy food and go to the beach and see friends and probably go to some cool breweries too. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So yes. All right. So go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so, guys. The call-in link is pinned to the top of the chat. It's 9:52. I'll start the room at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, whatever it's called now. And let's do the damn thing. So the call-in question tonight, and by the way, if you're watching and you are Republican, I definitely want to hear your opinion about this. Tonight's call-in segment is called Dems Push Liz Cheney for 2024. Liz Cheney has lost her primary, and now some Democrats are pushing for a Liz Cheney run for 2024. What are your thoughts? So I definitely want to hear from you guys, all of you. All right, guys, have a good weekend. I think I did okay without Eric here in the background. So that link's pinned to the top of the chat. I'll also share it on Twitter. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.